This was supposed to be a soft-spoken video. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to ASMR with Rudy. ASMR with Rudy. ASMR with Rudy. My name, of course, is ASMR with Rudy. Welcome back to the channel. You're seeing my face after a while, and I haven't taken a shower. As you can very clearly tell, my hair is a bit messy, but it's also very, very beautiful. I'm feeling amazing. Better than usual. And the style has changed. It's a pointier beard. Yes. Anyway, ignore the mouse. Well, he can stay in frame. Logitech. Solid. Anyway, you read the title. This is my philosophy on love. Why am I talking about it? One, because I'm a poet. I love the topic of love in general because I write about it a lot, and because I am a very wearing my heart on my sleeve kind of person, which might tell you two things about me. I'm very vulnerable, capable of vulnerability. Two, I'm a very big people pleasing son of a big, beautiful human being. Yes. Good save there, right? We're keeping it family friendly, you guys. Anyway, my point is, I'm going to be whispering and I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be telling you what it is about my philosophy that I think you should pay attention to. You don't have to agree with it, it's just my 2 cents on the matter. Anyway, so there is a term for what English as a language is, and that is, if I'm not wrong, lingua franca. Yes, global lingua franca. So a lingua franca is defined as a language that is adopted as a common language between speakers whose native languages are different. Why global? Because English is literally the medium of exchange on the planet Earth. That does two things. One, it does a good thing which unites us with a common tongue, which is nice for ease of access to communication and straightforward means of speech. But two, it's also a double-edged sword in the sense that there is too many varietals and many people out there who are trying to impose their brand of English as the English. There's American English, there's British English, there's Hinglish, which is Hindi English, there's Singlish, which is Singaporean English. Both of the latter ones that I mentioned are very valid forms in the linguistics community. The world may be very racist towards anything that isn't American, British, or Australian English, but that's besides the point. Now, why is that important? Because it enforces a sort of love, a sort of, how do I say this, archetypes around love in our minds, which is annoying when you grow up as different people, when you have individual uh, idiosyncrasies of your own. Idiosyncrasies just is a fancy way of saying what makes you, the little quirks and habits of your own that are extensions of your personality. Those get those don't have a chance to blossom into something that is profound. Instead, they have to be bottled and sort of molded into this Western philosophy narrative. Get down on one knee, propose. One night stands are okay, and all that kind of stuff. Cheating is fine. You know, uh, just hoe it out. Sleep with 50,000 people, and that's okay for you. Again, when I'm saying all this, I'm not my intention here is not to attempt to slut shame or penalize anybody for their personal choices. No, if you want to sleep with dozens of people, if you believe in one night stands, that's completely fine. That isn't the point here. The point is the fact that the way we operate in this global world is very, very Western dominated. What we see in those movies, what we see in those visuals, how those actresses and actors look, that sort of ends up being the dominant narrative in our lives, despite us not all of us being American peoples. Point is, as someone who very much loves to love on their own terms, it is very sickening when there is a global standard behind it. Like, do XYZ to receive XYZ kind of, you know, outcomes. And that's so stupid because love, the whole point of it is to do it your way. That doesn't mean you do it in a creepy way. if that's your way. No, it just means you do it intentionally and wholeheartedly without expectations. You put yourself out there and present what makes you you. And if you're loved for it, that's great. If you're not, it's fine. Love yourself first. But we're so caught up in this find someone, there's many fish in the sea apparently. You have to cast a net to grab the fish. We are supposed to be people, not freaking fish. I don't know why we use metaphors that don't even make sense, you know. Anyway, my whole point here is we should do what we want instead of bothering with philosophies that are quite outdated and quite Western centric. There's nothing wrong with if you want to be proposed to with someone getting down on one knee, but why do you think you're owed that? Why do you think that is the only way to go about it? You know, why does love have to exist in a defined form? Love can be expressed in many ways. We're very, very used to using the word love as a definitive point, but the word love itself in the English language, as used in the English language, is such a defining factor apparently. It's a destination, a fixed milestone, where once you've reached it, apparently that's the biggest, most final declaration of your inner love for the other person. And I just think that is very, very, very gross when there are multitude of words in the language itself to talk about the feeling of love, which can transcend the typical nature that Western media presents, which is love, like the my heart beats for you, I'd sacrifice myself for you type of love, or as many others portray it, I'd creep the hell and stalk the hell out of you until you're affectionate with me. No, love can be admiration, love can be loyalty, love can be strength, love can be support, love can be healing, love can be disastrous. I've already given you a few adjectives that are not typically talked about. And then what else? Many other languages talk about love in a way that transcends space and time. That's a very important thing that I think we should be getting into. Why aren't we using our multi ethnic and our multiple tongues to help take back ownership of the rich minds that we have? We are letting this be dominated by the West while we are preaching and hoping that this part of our body keeps developing and learning. How can this learn if this stays stagnant? Now, no, that doesn't make sense. The heart actually doesn't think for itself. But I'm trying to appeal to you to the fact with the fact that if you think a certain fixed way when it comes to a fixed concept in your head, you are practically limiting yourself. You know, like this is not about monogamy versus polygamy. No, it's just about you see love the way you want to. And if proposing on one knee and then that whole shebang is your thing, genuinely, that's great. You don't have to justify it, but really ask yourself where you stand with all of this. Because if you're mindlessly consuming archetypes and narratives and standards of living because they're just the set menu, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. We all live on this planet only for a very, very short amount of time. And I think we all deserve to take back control of our own limited narrative, which is less than 100 years on average, or 75 if you take the actual average, for age. So take back your power. Live life by understanding yourself, not watching movies or consuming content that is wired to start making you think a certain way. You think getting on one knee and proposing is something that was made so that you could feel great about love and have an amazing partner to propose to or be proposed by. No, all of this feeds back into the capitalistic system. The whole getting on one knee promotes this extreme expectation on people that you need to go out there and get a ring, and then it has to be a very good ring or you'll get rejected, and it has to be a very scenic, amazing photographic memory. I mean, a photogenic moment for all, like great photos and all of that. Yeah, if that's your cup of tea, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, don't fall for the scam, because often you might think you like a certain cup of tea, but you probably drink coffee. I hope that analogy makes sense. You know, what I'm just trying to say is you need to consume what rewards you and fulfills your heart, nourishes your mind. You don't need to, let me, before I say this, knowledge is power. That's a saying that is very powerful on its own because it's true. You shouldn't consume one sided affairs, you know, of like anything. You should like playing one type of game, doing one type of activity, go hitting the gym and just doing one type of exercise. Yes, all of that is great, but in the long run, not really that helpful if you want to enrich yourself and really find out who you are. But if who you are comes back to all of these standard things, that's fine. There's no judgment there. There's nothing wrong and there's nothing basic about it. I'm not calling Americans or Australians or British people basic. And then again, it's also very stereotypical of me to assume that's how most of them lead their lives. They probably don't. The UK is a very diverse place, and even saying there's a typical British accent is wrong because British RP is is an accent that the royal family uses a lot and is very common in like formal, overly posh settings. But there's like a gazillion accents in that country alone, and there's like subcultures that have other things that are non-typical from what we see on TV. So that already breaks the norm and presents a contradiction. My whole final summary here is that do what makes you happy. If living life a very set way, Western centric, Eurocentric, yeah, go for it. No problem. If you prefer arranged marriages and you just want to be a type of person who just doesn't put too much effort into finding your own partner, cool. Who's to say no? But you just have to ask yourself. And I know this is all like, what's the point here? Like, some of you may not have partners, some of you may have already gotten married, some of you are pre-marriage, whatever, wherever you are, whatever stage of life you are. This isn't me telling you how to live. It's me telling you that you should decide how you live, not a piece of content, not a piece of entertainment, not the news, not anything else. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because this isn't me giving. Anyway, I'm not an authority figure, and nor am I trying to enable you to live your life on blindly any terms. No, there's a clear line between what's good for you and what is okay in civil society. Just because you think declaring your love to random people in the street is okay, it may not work out well, and you might creep a few people out by yelling "I love you" to their face. So, I hope you get my point. This was my, let's say, treatise, a small philosophy on love. I reject getting on one knee and proposing, not because I am afraid of the responsibility. I'm not. I'd happily do that, but I think love and marriage can be captured by multiple other moments. Engagements can be cemented by other cultural norms other than a ring. That's all I mean. I'm not going to take it upon myself to declare my love based off of one checkpoint that one part of the world tells me to. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I encourage and recommend you the same. And yeah, this has been ASMR Rudy. Maybe we'll call this a small journal entry type of video. It isn't purely for sleep. It's sort of a rambly, venti, Ariana Grande cup of philosophy coffee. And I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit more of my authentic personality and my terrible accents. Anyway, take care. Good night. Sleep well, my friends. And I shall catch you next time. Bye.